Captain Ji-woo Park stood at the command center of the stellar envoy, watching as the massive cephalid station grew larger on the view screen. The structure looked like a giant coral reef floating in space, all curves and organic shapes unlike the angular human vessels. Lights pulsed across its surface in mesmerizing patterns that the xenolinguists had only begun to decipher. "Approaching final docking coordinates," announced Sung Min, the navigation officer. His fingers moved confidently across the controls despite the tension in his shoulders. Jae-woo nodded, trying not to show her own nervousness. "Proceed as planned." The Stellar Envoy was the first human vessel to make official contact with the Cephalid Confederation after the initial probe discoveries. 6 months of cautious communication had led to this moment, the first face-to-face meeting between humans and the aquatic species. "All systems nominal," reported Minji from the engineering station. "Docking sequence ready on your command." Jae-woo took a deep breath. "Begin docking procedures." The ship hummed as thrusters fired in precise bursts, guiding them into the organic-looking docking bay. The curved walls glistened with bioluminescent patterns that shifted in what seemed like response to their arrival. "I think they're talking to us," whispered Taiho, the communications specialist. "The light patterns are accelerating." The ship settled into place with a gentle shudder. A series of clicks and hisses indicated that the docking clamps had engaged and the environmental seals were forming. Jae-woo turned to her crew. "Remember your training. The cephalids communicate through body posture, color changes, and some sound frequencies. The translators should handle most of it, but be mindful of your body language." Dae-hyun, the medical officer, checked his equipment one last time. "The breathing apparatus is ready if we need to enter their water-filled sections. Let's hope it doesn't come to that on day one." Ji-woo replied with a small smile. The team gathered at the airlock. Ji-woo, Dae-hyun, Hejum the anthropologist, and Taeho. All had been specially selected for this mission, not just for their scientific expertise, but for their adaptability and calm temperaments. Receiving atmospheric confirmation, Taeho said, checking the readouts. "The reception chamber has been adjusted to Earth normal conditions. They've been studying us as much as we've been studying them," Hejun noted. The airlock cycled, and the outer doors slid open to reveal a large, circular chamber. The walls rippled with shifting colors, predominantly cool blues and greens. At the far end was a large transparent panel showing a water-filled section beyond. Swimming behind the transparent barrier were 3 cephalids. Their bodies resembled Earth octopi, but with more elongated forms and 7 tentacles instead of 8. Their skin constantly shifted with patterns of light that moved across their bodies like living digital displays. A small robotic platform glided forward, stopping before the human delegation. A voice emerged from it, slightly mechanical but clear. "Welcome to Nexus Station. I am the translation interface for junior xenobiologist Nara." One of the cephalids moved closer to the barrier, its skin pulsing with bright patterns of blue and gold. The translator continued, "I have been assigned as your primary scientific liaison during this exchange." Jae-woo stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Thank you for your welcome. I am Captain Ji-woo Park of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. We are honored to be the first humans to visit your station." The cephalid, Nara, changed colors rapidly, flashing patterns of purple and green. The translator processed these signals. "Your physical form is fascinating. So rigid and vertical. Do you not tire from maintaining such a posture?" Hejun smiled. "Our internal skeleton supports us. We actually find it more tiring to lie down for too long." Another cephalid moved forward, its colors more subdued and formal. The translator identified it as Senior Diplomat Kelp. "We have prepared quarters for your delegation. They have been designed based on the specifications you sent. Please inform us if any adjustments are needed." "Thank you for your consideration," Jae-woo replied. As they followed the hovering translator through the corridors, Nara continued to observe them through the water channels that ran alongside the air-filled passages. Her colors shifted constantly in what the humans guessed was excitement or curiosity. "Your locomotion is so different." Nara's translation came through. "You move by falling forward repeatedly. It seems inefficient, yet you maintain remarkable balance." "I suppose walking does look strange if you've never seen it before," Da-hyun responded. "Just as your swimming seems extraordinary to us." They reached a large circular room with various human furnishings arranged in approximations of Earth layouts. The attempt was clearly made with care, though some items were placed at odd angles or heights. "This will be your primary meeting space," explained the translator. "Adjacent are your personal quarters." Nara pressed close to the water barrier, her colors forming complex, rapid patterns. The translator worked for a moment before conveying, "I have many questions about human biology. Our species has never encountered mammals before. Your thermal regulation, respiration, and cellular structures are unlike anything in our confederation." "We're equally curious about cephalid physiology," Da-hyun replied. "I'd be happy to exchange information." Nara's colors brightened. "I would like to begin immediately. Your species has countless mysteries. You generate internal heat. You breathe only air. And your reproduction. Our preliminary data suggests peculiar methods." The humans exchanged glances, some hiding smiles. "Perhaps we should start with basic metabolic functions," Da-hyun suggested diplomatically. Over the next few hours, the human team settled into their quarters while Nara remained constantly visible in the water channel, observing their every move with undisguised fascination. Her colors changed depending on what she was watching. Bright yellows when they ate, pulsing blues when they used their computers, and curious purple swirls when they performed simple exercises to adjust to the station's slightly lighter gravity. That evening, as the humans gathered for their first meal on the station, Ji-woo looked around at her team. "I'd say first contact is proceeding well," she said quietly. "They seem genuinely interested in peaceful exchange." Ho-jun nodded. "That young xenobiologist, Nara, her enthusiasm is encouraging. Though I think she's going to have quite a shock when she learns more about human biology." The team laughed, unaware of just how prophetic those words would prove to be. Nara swam in tight circles within her private water chamber, her skin flashing with patterns of deep blue concentration mixed with occasional bursts of yellow surprise. The human biological database filled her view screen, text and diagrams floating in the water before her. She had been studying for hours, her 7 tentacles occasionally reaching out to manipulate the controls and request more information. "Impossible," she whispered, her natural voice making musical tones in the water that the translation device rendered into human speech, even though no one was present to hear it. Nara had started with basic human anatomy. The rigid internal skeleton had seemed oddly inefficient at first, but she had begun to appreciate how it allowed for the human's remarkable upright posture and bipedal locomotion. Their respiratory system, with its strange air sac organs called lungs, had been fascinating if primitive compared to the cephalid's more efficient gill structures. But now she had reached the section on human reproduction, and her color patterns fluctuated wildly between disbelief and horror. "They can't possibly," she muttered, requesting confirmation of the data for the 3rd time. The information remained unchanged. Humans reproduced sexually with internal fertilization. That alone wasn't shocking. Some species in the cephalid confederation used similar methods. But what followed was what Nara found difficult to comprehend. The human female carried the developing offspring inside her body, not for a few days, but for months. Nearly 3/4 of a standard solar cycle. And then the offspring, already fully formed, had to exit through a small opening that expanded for the purpose. Nara's colors faded to a pale gray of shock. She made one final query, requesting visual information on the process. The database provided a simplified animation of human childbirth. Nara's colors drained completely, leaving her transparent with shock. She reflexively released a cloud of ink, temporarily obscuring her view of the screen. How do they survive this? She asked the empty room. Among cephalids, reproduction was a carefully controlled process. Gametes were released into the communal spawning reefs during specific astronomical alignments. The fertilized eggs developed externally, tended by specialized caretakers, not the biological parents. The young emerged fully capable of basic survival, needing only education, not physical care. The thought of carrying another being inside one's body seemed not just inefficient, but somehow invasive and dangerous. And the physical trauma of the birth process itself. Nara needed to confirm this information. Perhaps the database contained errors or the translation was flawed. She quickly composed a message to Da-hyun, the human medical officer, requesting a meeting for clarification of biological data. The next morning cycle, Nara positioned herself in the water channel adjacent to the human meeting room. Her colors were subdued, professionally neutral despite her inner turmoil. Ji-woo and Da-hyun entered, carrying their strange data tablets. "Good morning, Nara," Ji-woo said with a smile. "Da-hyun tells me you have questions about our biology." Nara's skin flickered briefly with embarrassment before she regained control. "Yes, I have been studying your species' biological data. I believe there may be translation errors regarding your reproductive process." Da-hyun tilted his head. "What seems to be the problem?" Nara's colors shifted to scientific blue, trying to maintain professional detachment. "The database indicates that human offspring develop inside the female's body for approximately 9 months. Is this correct?" "Yes, that's right," Ji-woo confirmed. "Human gestation lasts around 40 weeks, though it can vary slightly. And the offspring, the baby, continues to grow during this entire period. Inside the mother." "That's correct," Da-hyun said. "From a single fertilized cell to a fully formed infant." Nara's colors darkened with confusion. "But how does the mother's body function normally with another being inside? Doesn't it interfere with organ function, movement, nutrition?" Da-hyun smiled. "It certainly presents challenges. The mother's body undergoes numerous adaptations. Organs shift position. Metabolism changes. The cardiovascular system expands its capacity." And then, Nara's colors pulsed with reluctance. The database describes the exit process. "Through an opening that must expand considerably." Ji-woo nodded, her expression softening. "Childbirth. Yes, it's a physically demanding process." "You do this all the time?" Nara blurted, her colors flashing with uncontrolled patterns of amazement and horror. The two humans exchanged glances, and Da-hyun suppressed a smile. "Well, not all humans give birth," Ji-woo explained. "Only females with certain biological characteristics, and even then, not all choose to reproduce. But yes, it's how our species has always continued. But it's so inefficient, so painful, so dangerous." Nara's colors swirled with confusion. "It can be challenging," Ji-woo acknowledged. "But many human cultures view it as a profound and meaningful experience. The connection between mother and child often begins during gestation." Nara moved closer to the transparent barrier. In cephalid reproduction, the parents release genetic material into the spawning reefs. Specialized caretakers tend the eggs. No individual bears the entire burden of creating new life. "That sounds quite efficient," Da-hyun noted, "though very different from our experience." "But what about the pain?" "The database indicates the process can last many hours. Medical advances have made childbirth safer and less painful than in our past," Da-hyun explained. "But yes, it remains an intense physical experience." Nara's colors shifted to a deep purple of respect. "Your species must possess remarkable resilience." Later that day, Nara observed the humans from her water channel as they went about their activities. She watched Yi-jin, one of the human colonists, who according to the personnel files was currently in the early stage of pregnancy. The woman showed no outward signs yet, moving about normally, laughing with her colleagues. Humans, Nara realized, were far more complex than she had initially assumed. Their biology seemed inefficient and strange by cephalid standards, yet they had thrived and spread across their planet, eventually reaching the stars. That night, as the station's lighting dimmed to simulate night cycle, Nara continued her research. She moved beyond basic reproductive mechanics to study the hormonal and neurological components of human parenthood. The complex chemical bonds forming between parent and offspring fascinated her. Perhaps, she considered, what seemed like biological inefficiency served other purposes, creating social bonds and family structures that strengthened the species in ways cephalids might not fully understand. There was more to learn about these strange bipedal beings. Much more. The large chamber that served as the cultural exchange hub had been adapted to accommodate both species comfortably. One half contained breathable air for the humans, while the other half was filled with the mineral-rich water the cephalids preferred. A transparent barrier separated the two environments, though it did nothing to hinder communication thanks to the advanced translation systems. Today marked the first formal presentation on reproductive biology, a topic that had sparked intense interest after Nara's discoveries. The chamber was filled to capacity with curious scientists from both species. Nara's skin glowed with professional blue patterns as she activated the holographic display in the water. Three-dimensional images of cephalid spawning reefs appeared, floating in both environments. Cephalid reproduction begins with the great spawning, Nara explained, her colors shifting to emphasize certain points. When our three moons align, adult cephalids who wish to reproduce gather at these special reefs. The hologram showed dozens of cephalids swimming in complex patterns around glowing coral formations. Males and females release genetic material into the water simultaneously. The reef structures contain special chambers where fertilization occurs naturally. Nara's skin rippled with pale pink, a sign of mild embarrassment at discussing such matters publicly. No single cephalid bears responsibility for nurturing the eggs. Hajun watched with fascination. Who takes care of the developing offspring then? We have dedicated caretakers, Nara explained as the hologram shifted to show specialized cephalids tending to thousands of tiny eggs. They are not the biological parents but have been specially trained for this role. They monitor development, remove any unhealthy eggs, and adjust environmental conditions for optimal growth. How long does development take? Asked Yi Jin, unconsciously resting a hand on her slightly rounded belly. 28 days, Nara replied. When the young emerge, they are immediately capable of basic swimming and communication. They require education but not physical care. Jadwu nodded thoughtfully. That's remarkably different from humans. Our young are completely dependent for years. The presentation shifted to Dahyun, who activated his own holographic display, showing human reproductive systems. Several cephalids changed to colors of intense interest, their tentacles moving in rapid patterns that the translators interpreted as scientific excitement. Human reproduction begins with internal fertilization, Dahyun explained professionally. Unlike cephalids, we do not have communal spawning events. Reproduction typically occurs between pairs. Nara's colors shifted slightly at this, but she remained attentive. The fertilized egg implants in the female's uterus. Dahyun continued as the hologram showed the process. Development occurs entirely within the mother's body for approximately 9 months. One of the senior cephalid scientists, Modu, flashed patterns of blue inquiry. This seems remarkably inefficient. Why would evolution favor such a method? Hajun stepped forward. It's actually an adaptation that offered significant advantages. Internal development protects the offspring during its most vulnerable stages. Earth has many predators that would consume external eggs. But the burden on the female seems excessive, noted another cephalid researcher. Yi Jin smiled. It is demanding, but it creates a unique bond. Even now, I can feel my child moving. Her expression softened. There's nothing quite like it. The cephalid's colors shifted in patterns of interest and confusion. Earth has incredible diversity in reproductive strategies. Hajun continued, expanding the holographic display to show various Earth creatures. Some fish and amphibians use external fertilization similar to cephalids. Birds lay eggs but warm them with their bodies. Mammals like humans carry offspring internally. Nera moved closer to the barrier. Such diversity in one planet. Our confederation spans 12 worlds, yet our basic reproductive strategies remain similar across species. The conversation continued well past the scheduled time as both species found themselves deeply engaged. The humans described the variety of reproductive methods on Earth, while the cephalids shared how their reproduction had evolved in their ocean world before they developed space travel. Later, in the human quarters, the team gathered to discuss the day's exchange. "Did you see how fascinated they were?" Hajun said excitedly, "particularly with the variety of Earth species." Jaiwu nodded. "I think we tend to forget how unique Earth's evolutionary path has been. The cephalids evolved in a more stable environment, with fewer drastic changes." Nera seemed particularly interested in the emotional aspects. Yi Jin noted, "When I mentioned feeling connected to my baby, her colors showed patterns I hadn't seen before." "I noticed that too," Dahyun said. "Their reproduction is so communal, so detached from individual experience. The concept of the maternal-infant bond seems entirely new to them." In her water chamber, Nera was having similar reflections. She floated quietly, her colors subdued in thought as she reviewed the day's information. The cephalid approach to reproduction had always seemed logical to her, efficient, communal, removing the biological burden from individuals for the benefit of the species. Yet something about the human way tugged at her curiosity. She pulled up the recordings of Yi Jin speaking about her pregnancy, studying the human's facial expressions when she mentioned feeling her child move. There was something there, an emotional component, that Nera couldn't quite grasp but found inexplicably compelling. She composed a message to Yi Jin, requesting a private conversation the next day. Perhaps through more direct questioning, she could better understand this strange mammalian connection. The following morning, Yi Jin met Nera in a small meeting room. The cephalid's colors were gentle, showing respect and curiosity. "Thank you for meeting with me," Nera began. "I have questions of a more personal nature about human reproduction, if you are comfortable discussing them." Yi Jin smiled. "Of course. What would you like to know?" "Yesterday, you mentioned feeling your offspring move inside you. Is this pleasant?" Yi Jin considered this. "It's hard to describe. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, especially when the baby kicks strongly or presses against certain organs. But mostly, it's wonderful. Each movement is a reminder that a new person is growing, someone connected to me, but also separate." Nera's colors shifted to a thoughtful blue. "Among my people, there is no such connection. We contribute to the next generation, but we never experience them as individuals until they emerge." "Do you ever wish it were different?" Yi Jin asked gently. Nera was silent for a moment, her colors swirling in complex patterns. "I had never considered an alternative until meeting humans. Your way seems so intimate, so personal." As they continued talking, a foundation was being laid, not just for scientific understanding, but for a deeper appreciation of how different evolutionary paths could lead to equally valid forms of life. Two species, born of worlds light years apart, were beginning to see beyond their differences to the universal wonder of creation itself. The diplomatic reception was in full swing in the grand meeting chamber. After 3 weeks of successful exchanges, the Cephalid High Council had arranged this formal gathering to recognize the growing partnership between the two species. The chamber had been specially designed with a flowing water channel running throughout the air-filled section, allowing the cephalids to swim alongside their human counterparts during the event. Jaiwu watched with satisfaction as her team mingled with the cephalid dignitaries. Hajun was deep in conversation with a historian, their translator devices working smoothly as they compared ancient cultural texts. Dahyun had been called away earlier that morning to join a research expedition to one of the cephalids' underwater research facilities, taking several team members with him. Captain Park, called Modu, the senior cephalid scientist, his skin glowing with formal gold patterns. This exchange has exceeded our expectations. Your species has much to offer the Confederation. As does yours, Jiwoo replied with a slight bow. We've already received reports from Earth expressing great interest in your water purification technology. Nara swam up beside Modu, her colors showing excitement. Captain, I've been analyzing the comparative data from our discussions on evolutionary patterns. The findings are quite. A sudden commotion from across the room interrupted her. Jiwoo turned to see Yi Jin leaning heavily against a wall, her face contorted in pain. The pregnant colonist had been cleared to attend the reception despite being in her third trimester, as her due date was still 3 weeks away. Jiwoo rushed to her side. Yi Jin, what's wrong? The baby, Yi Jin gasped, clutching her abdomen. Something's happening. It's too early. Jiwoo tapped her communication device. Medical emergency. I need Da-hyun back at the station immediately. Negative, Captain, came the instant reply. The research team is in deep submersion. Return time minimum 4 hours. Jiwoo's face tightened with concern. Understood. Send any other medical personnel available. All medical staff accompanied Dr. Da-hyun, came the response. Protocol for the underwater expedition required full medical team. Yi Jin cried out again, sliding down the wall to a sitting position. The contractions are getting stronger. This baby isn't waiting 4 hours. The cephalids had gathered at a respectful distance, their colors showing patterns of concern and confusion. Nara pushed forward through the water channel, her skin flickering with determination. I can help, she announced, her translator conveying confident tones despite the nervous color patterns rippling across her skin. Jiwoo looked up in surprise. You? I've been studying human reproductive biology extensively, Nara explained quickly, including emergency childbirth procedures. I've reviewed all the medical databases you provided. Yi Jin groaned as another contraction hit. Theoretical knowledge isn't the same as practical experience. We have no other options, Jiwoo said grimly. She looked at Nara. What do you need? Nara's colors steadied to a determined blue. Get her to the medical chamber. It can be adjusted for human birthing position. I need clean fabrics, hot water, and your emergency medical kit. Jiwoo nodded and began giving orders. 2 human crew members carefully helped Yi Jin to her feet and supported her as they made their way to the medical facility. Nara swam rapidly through the connecting water channels, arriving before them. By the time they reached the medical chamber, Nara had already reconfigured the room. The central examination platform had been tilted to a semi-reclined position, and medical supplies were arranged nearby. The water channel in this room was wider, allowing Nara greater access to the air-filled section. Her water has broken, Jiwoo reported as they helped Yi Jin onto the platform. Nara's skin momentarily flashed pale with anxiety before returning to professional blue. I need to examine her to determine how far along she is. Yi Jin looked terrified. You want to examine me, but you're not even. I know this is not ideal, Nara interrupted, her colors showing empathy despite her alien features. But I have studied human anatomy in detail. My tentacles actually have more sensitive touch receptors than human hands. I can detect subtle changes in temperature and pressure that might help assess your condition. Yi Jin looked at Jiwoo, who nodded encouragingly. We don't have many options right now. Okay, Yi Jin agreed reluctantly, grimacing through another contraction. Nara raised 2 tentacles from the water channel. These will remain in the air. The others will support me in the water. I'll be as gentle as possible. What followed was a tense examination, with Nara's colors shifting rapidly as she processed what she was sensing. Finally, she withdrew her tentacles back into the water. The cervix is fully dilated, she announced. The baby is coming now. There's no time to wait for your doctor. Yi Jin's eyes widened with panic. I can't do this with. You can, Nara interrupted, her skin glowing with a warm, reassuring orange. Your body knows what to do. I will guide you. Over the next hour, the strange scene unfolded. A human woman in labor, coached by an alien being who had never witnessed birth before, connected only by translation devices, and a shared determination to bring a new life safely into the world. Nara remained remarkably composed, her tentacles occasionally reaching out to check Yijin's progress or adjust her position. Her skin would flash with concern at particularly difficult moments, but she kept her translator voice steady and encouraging. "You're doing well," Nara said as Yijin pushed through another contraction. "The head is beginning to emerge." Jagwu held Yijin's hand, providing human comfort while Nara handled the medical aspects. "You're almost there," she encouraged. "One more strong push," Nara instructed, two tentacles poised to assist. "Now," Yijin cried out, bearing down with all her strength. There was a moment of intense pressure, and then sudden relief as the baby slid into Nara's waiting tentacles. For a moment, the cephalid froze, her colors draining to a shocked white as she held the tiny, wiggling human infant. Then, as the baby let out its first cry, Nara's skin exploded into a dazzling display of colors. Blues, purples, golds, patterns so complex and rapid that the translator couldn't process them. With gentle movements, she lifted the baby clear of the water channel and placed it on Yijin's chest. "A female," Nara said softly, her colors still swirling with emotion. "She appears healthy." Yijin wept as she cradled her daughter. "Thank you," she whispered. Nara's colors shifted to a deep, satisfied purple. "I have studied this process extensively, but witnessing it, her translator seemed to struggle to find the words. It was unlike anything in cephalid experience." Jaiwu looked at the alien with newfound respect. "You did something remarkable today, Nara." Outside in the corridor, the news spread quickly among both humans and cephalids. A new life had entered the universe, delivered through the cooperation of two vastly different species who, just weeks earlier, had been strangers to each other. 2 years had passed since the first human delegation arrived at the cephalid station. What began as cautious scientific exchanges had blossomed into a thriving partnership between the species. The station had expanded to include a permanent human section, with families now living alongside their cephalid counterparts. In the newly built research center, Nara swam through her private water channel, her skin glowing with the deep blue of concentration. Her workspace was lined with screens displaying human medical data, and specially designed equipment allowed her to manipulate objects in the air-filled portion of the laboratory. A soft chime announced a visitor. Nara turned to see Yijin enter, holding her daughter Sumai by the hand. The toddler's eyes widened at the sight of Nara, and she broke into a delighted smile. "Nara," Sumai called, running to the edge of the water channel. At 2 years old, she had no fear of the alien being who had helped bring her into the world. Nara's skin shifted to warm yellows and oranges, the cephalid equivalent of a smile. "Hello, little one," she said through her translator. "You grow bigger every time I see you." Yijin smiled. She wanted to visit before the ceremony. She's been talking about Aunt Nara all morning. Today marked an important milestone. The Interspecies Medical Council was officially opening, with Nara serving as its first director. Her groundbreaking work on comparative biology had revolutionized medicine for both species. "Are you nervous about your speech?" Yijin asked. Nara's skin flickered with brief patterns of anxiety. "A little. Speaking before the High Council and your Earth ambassadors is intimidating." Sumai pressed her small hand against the transparent barrier. Nara extended a tentacle to meet it on the other side. This had become their special greeting. "You helped me come out," Sumai said simply, repeating the story she had heard many times. "Yes," Nara replied, her colors softening. "It was the most important day of my scientific career." Yijin checked the time. "We should let you prepare. The ceremony starts in an hour." After they left, Nara reviewed her notes one final time. The journey from horrified xenobiologist to respected expert on human physiology, had been remarkable. Her research had led to medical breakthroughs benefiting both species. Cephalid regenerative techniques had been adapted for human healing, while human immunology had helped solve a long-standing cephalid health crisis. Later, in the Grand Assembly Hall, Nora swam alongside Jiwoo, who had returned to the station as Earth's official ambassador. The room was filled with representatives from both species, including several human families with children. "Ready?" Jiwoo asked. Nara's skin displayed confident blue with flecks of excited gold. "As ready as I'll ever be." The cephalid High Elder, Toru, began the ceremony with formal patterns of light that needed no translation, universal symbols of welcome and cooperation. Then he spoke. "Today we celebrate not just scientific achievement, but a deeper understanding between our peoples. When the humans first arrived, many doubted meaningful exchange was possible between species so different in biology and culture." Nara's mind drifted back to her first encounter with human reproduction, how alien and horrifying it had seemed, how wrong she had been to judge what she didn't understand. Toru continued, "No one has done more to bridge this gap than junior xenobiologist Nara, who today takes the title of Director of Interspecies Medicine." The audience's approval showed in human applause and cephalid light displays as Nara moved to the central platform. "Thank you," she began, her skin glowing with formal patterns. "My journey began with shock, and I must admit, horror at human reproductive methods." A ripple of laughter passed through the human section of the audience. "What seemed inefficient and painful by cephalid standards, I now recognize as something quite beautiful," Nara continued. "Different, yes, but no less valid than our own methods." She gestured to Sumi, sitting on Yijin's lap. 2 years ago, I helped this young human enter the world. In the process, I learned that biology is just the beginning of understanding a species." Nara's colors shifted to thoughtful purple. "Humans carry their young inside them, yes, but they also carry them in their hearts long after birth. The parent-child bond continues throughout life, shaping both individuals in profound ways." She turned to address the cephalid section. "Our communal approach to reproduction and child-rearing has advantages: shared responsibility, consistent education, efficient resource allocation. But we can learn from the human approach too. Their intense personal investment creates unique bonds and motivations." Nara extended 3 tentacles in the traditional gesture of respect. "The medical advances we celebrate today came from looking beyond our differences to find common ground. When I first asked Captain Park, 'You do this all the time,' I could not comprehend how humans survived such a reproductive method." Her colors warmed to a gentle gold. "Now I understand that what makes a species strong isn't always what seems most efficient. Sometimes strength comes from what appears to be vulnerability." After the ceremony, a reception allowed both species to mingle. Nara found herself approached by a young human couple. "Director Nara," the woman said hesitantly, "I'm Ki-bum, and this is my husband Jun. We wanted to thank you personally for your research. Thanks to your adaptation of cephalid regenerative techniques, I was able to overcome infertility. We're expecting our first child next month." Nara's colors shifted to pleased pink. "That's wonderful news. Our medical team has prepared protocols for any human birth on the station. No emergency improvisations this time." Ki-bum smiled. "Actually, we were hoping. Would you consider being present for the birth? Not as an emergency measure, but as an honored guest." Nara's colors flashed with surprise. "You want me there, even though your human doctors will attend?" June nodded. "Your understanding of both species biology is unparalleled. But more than that, you've come to represent the bridge between our peoples. What better welcome for a child who will grow up in this new shared world?" Later that evening, Nara retreated to her private chamber. She activated her personal recording system, adding to the comprehensive text she had been developing. Comparative Sentient Biology, a guide to interspecies understanding. Today marked another step in our journey together. she dictated. What began as scientific curiosity has become something deeper, a recognition that life, in all its diverse forms, follows different paths to the same destination. She paused, her colors shifting to contemplative blue. The human concept of family once seemed strange to me. Their attachment to biological offspring, their willingness to endure physical discomfort for reproduction, it all appeared inefficient compared to our communal methods. Nara's colors warmed as she continued. But efficiency isn't everything. There is wisdom in their way too. The intensity of their bonds creates a different kind of strength. Not better than ours, just different. And in understanding these differences, both our species have grown. She swam to her viewing port, looking out at the stars beyond the station. Somewhere out there, other species waited to be discovered, with their own unique approaches to life's fundamental challenges. 2 years ago, I helped bring a human child into this universe, Nara concluded. In return, that experience delivered me to a new understanding. We are all, regardless of biology, reaching for the same stars.